So I mean, that was the thing that we had talked about earlier. So it was coming about understanding the influences of music. So music really is that multimodal sort of stimulus where if you're playing music, you've got to coordinate, keep the rhythm, coordinate your hands while you're reading the music, right? And so there's a lot of different things that's got to be going on at the same time. And you're using both hands, it activates across hemispherically.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, you've got that both inter and intra-hemispheric. So it's supporting the information being processed between both sides of the brain and then individually supporting what's being processed in each side of the brain. So it's really awesome to do something like play the piano, for instance, as Daniel was saying, because you have to read the notes and then you're working your visual processing. You'll hear probably, if you know the song, if a note's wrong, and that's auditory processing, as well as just listening to the notes. And you've got your motor coordination, so you've got your motor cortex going there. And then if you sing along, then you've got the arcuate fasciculus also doing its thing. So there's all of these great aspects to making music and how it can really support all of these other areas that are not musical. Like music is so accessible to all of us. So it's a really awesome way to engage our brains and to promote these other skills in a way that is really accessible. And someone said, can listening to music help with attention, and how? So absolutely, there are specific techniques in music therapy that utilize playing music with another person, with a particularly music therapist, to promote attention. But then also, if you want to use music and listening to music for attention, you can choose a song that you like, and maybe every time that the verse is playing, you play one instrument, and every time it switches to the chorus, you switch and play another instrument. Or if you know the song really well and you know all the words, you can say, okay, every time I hear this word, I'm going to do something. So if it's like, I'm going to clap when I hear that word, or I'm going to dance when I hear that word until I hear that word again. There are lots of ways to use, yeah, like Simon Says. It is kind of like Simon Says. So Simon Says is it definitely is an attention trainer. But in the practice of music therapy, what I often do is I'll have someone choose 3 instruments. So like, for example, maybe like a castanet, a shaker, and what else do I have handy? Tambourine. And then I might have one sound for the tambourine. So maybe for the tambourine, it'd be like do-do-do. I'd usually play guitar, but for the sake of time, I'll do it in this way. But I might say like do-do-do, and that's this. And then might be this. And then bop might be this. So then when I do do-do-do, they would play this. I think that was this, and I've already forgotten. So it's also a great memory exercise too, of what goes with what thing, and really focusing in on each aspect and using the elements of music and rhythm that our brains are naturally going to attach to and remember to support these other processes like attention, just like Simon Says, but in a way in which we're making music together. So it's a really fun and engaging experience, and it really supports the brain too, because the brain really responds in so many areas to music. There are so many different, like both sides of our brains are activated even when we are just listening to music. And so just having that good brain activation and that good engagement and that good synaptic firing when we're listening to music can really support us in all of these other ways. Does anyone have any? Oh yeah, cognitive. We didn't really go too much into cognitive, but music therapy interventions can be used to kind of orient us to where we are. That's a great example as far as playlists. Like if you have a morning routine playlist, they kind of be like, it's morning, we're doing our morning routine. and you know that the playlist will maybe be 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And so you kind of have that structure of how you're going to go through your morning routine, and you have this playlist that sort of puts you in the mood for the morning, gets you ready for the rest of your day, but also helps support you in keeping your morning routine to whatever length of time that you might want. So maybe you're like, okay, I want to get ready and I want to get dressed and I'm going to wake up at 9 and I want all of this to be done by 10 o'clock and I want to like eat breakfast at 10. And so having something that's maybe a playlist that's an hour long, so you can kind of move and groove to it and enjoy the morning routine, but then you have this kind of cue that is over and it's time to move on to the next thing. That's kind of one way to use music for orienting. And then sensory processing, just because we've got auditory processing, visual processing, and sensory motor processing all happening when we're making music or listening to music or dancing to music. And then it can enhance things like executive functioning. So when we're talking about songwriting, you have choices that you can make. If we're going to, let's say you and I were going to have a music experience together, it might be choosing what instruments that we want to play together, what sorts of songs we might want to listen to or anything like that. So it can support that executive functioning, increase the speed at which you are able to make choices, or promote the ability to express the choices that you might want to make in a different way. And so using music for all of these non-music skills is really fascinating and I think really exciting too, just because it's so interesting to use music. And as many of you in the group raise your hands, like everybody listens to music. So it just makes it a really accessible way to try new things and work on these things that might be more challenging since your incidents, and kind of support them in a different way.
Exactly. And as we've kind of been discussing, even with like Alive Inside, where music has lasting effects. So first, you do it in the moment and it can bring you back, right? Bring you into consciousness, help you with your executive functions or your planning. You're trying to figure out what's the timing. Where do I put my hands, right? How I'm getting immediate feedback, right? And all of these things you're integrating. And what we're seeing is that neurologically speaking is these effects last long after you stop playing the music. And so, one thing that you brought up earlier that I was very interested in was how you'd use the branch of music therapy that you were discussing, the branch that really takes advantage of more autonomic speech services that could really help toward disorders like aphasia. Right?
Yes, absolutely. So there's specific protocols that were created within, it's called neurologic music therapy. Music therapists use these techniques regularly, but neurologic music therapy was developed specifically for neuro rehab. So they have techniques and protocols that have been tested, researched at length, and were used in the like acute rehab facilities and in that setting. And then additionally, some people use them as they transition out. And so, they have very specific protocols. I myself am a neurologic music therapist, so I'm familiar with these protocols as well, and use them as appropriate with the clients I see with varieties of needs, whether they are post brain injury or otherwise. And so this is it's a very specific protocols for very specific needs. So it might be something like using an instrument in an unconventional way in order to promote a certain range of motion. Or as we were talking about, I believe attention, there is a technique called music attention control training, which is sort of what I demonstrated with having a different sound or melody or something associated with an instrument that then you kind of go through and support attention by using those specific sounds repetitively. And so, that's called neurologic music therapy.
Nice. Yeah, and you were also saying that there are some additional protocols, right, that can be used to help with word finding issues.
Thank you.
what we're saying here is like that anomia, right? The loss of being able to like find words or what things are called. And so are there additional protocols that would be
So
in
the
place?
other thing that I demonstrated earlier with You Are My Sunshine is called MuSTEM. So it's a way to stimulate non-propositional speech. So then we start there and sort of build out from there as far as like first working on just automatically saying something within the context of the song. So in that case, the target word would be sunshine, but then it could be things like putting an object into a song or using songs that have target words that are words that need more support, so that just saying that word and getting that word out comes more quickly and more naturally and doesn't take as long to process. So there are all kinds of ways. It's very open and very based on the individual as well. So there are the protocols that kind of say like, this is what's going on in the brain and this is the technique to use. But in the moment, there's always ways to adapt to the individual person.
Awesome. So then neurologic music therapy has protocols, but is really adaptable to fit the person, fit the survivor.
Music therapists, I think, are adaptable within knowing the patient's neurologic music therapists or otherwise. Music therapists have these skills and understanding of all of this information as well. But yes, neurologic music therapy provides a list of techniques and specific protocols for individuals.
Perfect. Questions for Laura Fonseca, the neurologic music therapist.
I see Traveler has asked a question already. Says, I really need executive function improvement, better orientation of strategy and speed. Can you give examples of music therapy in action for that? That is a great question. Let me think. So I'm one of those people that I have to think on this when I meet an individual and I kind of get an assessment of who they are and what their needs are. I think it's really improvement for orientation of strategy and speed. Can you?
So, I mean, it's going to be like coming into a place where if someone's trying to manipulate, they'll figure out that if they can distract me, or if they can throw a bunch of stuff at me at one time, I will cave. I will not make decisions in my own interest. So executive functioning that I'm talking about is like, no, this is my decision. This is what's right for me, and I can stick to it. I've got tone, but I don't have tone, but I want it. Yeah.
So almost like in processing the information so that you don't just automatically jump in with a yes. So yeah, I think that would be something like literally in a controlled, safe setting, using music to kind of put a lot in front of you musically and have you determine maybe what it is that you're looking for auditorily. So maybe it would be like, I want you to listen for this specific note, and I would play lots of things and you would tell me, literally just tell me if you heard it in that thing, which sounds a little bit like auditory processing, but it's also that executive functioning as far as like going through the layers of something and determining what is relevant and appropriate for you. So off the top of my head, that's sort of
perfect.
what I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it says, you also asked, can this therapy be done while remotely? And yeah, currently I'm working fully remotely, and I've had many clients see a lot of positive changes or rather see themselves, be able to support themselves through music in the progression of the goals that they've deemed to be most relevant to them.